refers to two types of people and how these two types of people are choosing to enter a sheep pen. The first is one who, instead of going in through the gate the way that you're supposed to go in, this one chooses to climb in over the fence. Jesus says that one is a thief and a robber. The second actually goes in through the gate the way that you're supposed to go in, and Jesus says that's the shepherd of the sheep. And so this parable emphasizes not only the person going in, but once the person is in, what the person actually does, or what the shepherd does. He calls the sheep once he's inside of the sheep pen. And they hear the shepherd's voice. He calls them out by name because in the first century, many times if your flock was small enough, you would actually give each sheep a particular nickname. You know, if it was a black sheep, you might name him Blackie. If it was a sheep with a white nose, you might call him White Nose or Floppy Ears or whatever you might call the sheep. But the shepherd calls the sheep out by name, and they follow him, obviously because they know their names. And so sheep follow the shepherd because they know his voice. And Jesus in the story makes the point that sheep run away from strangers because they don't know the stranger's voice. And he's saying this to the Pharisees and the Jews primarily, but I'm sure there are probably some extra people sprinkled in there as well. Why is Jesus saying this? Well, again, he's coming out of what happened with that healing with the man born blind, and he's drawing a contrast between himself and the Pharisees. And he's saying, we're different. We lead differently, and God's people see us differently. He's saying that those guys, the Pharisees, they're the thieves, they're the robbers, they're the strangers. And he might have switched topics from light in John chapter 9 to now sheep and shepherding here in John chapter 10, but he's making the same point. The point is, I'm the Messiah. That's his point. I'm the Messiah. And instead of for the Pharisees, instead of properly caring for this man born blind, the Pharisees threw him out of the synagogue. And Jesus, in contrast, is the good shepherd. He finds this man, and he leads this man to safe pasture. And just like the sheep in verses 4 through 5, they don't follow a stranger because they don't know his voice. The man born blind refused to listen to the Pharisees because they were strangers. But instead he turns to Jesus. And this man is this example of sheep who recognize the shepherd's voice and listen to him. Obviously, Jesus is the good shepherd. Guess who we are? We're the sheep, right? We're the sheep. And so Jesus, through this story or parable, he's basically saying that they are not Israel's true leaders. He's saying that he is. And he's saying that God's people will not listen to them, but they will listen to him, and he will be the one to lead his people to pasture. But of course, they don't get it, and so he has to explain. He has to kind of unpack his story or his parable, and that leads us to our two simple points this morning. The first is Jesus is our gate. Jesus is our gate. Here in verse 9, he says, I am the gate. Really simple, right? And in verse 7, he says it as well. Very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. This is another one of Jesus' I am statements. There's roughly 7 major ones in the Gospel of John. In John 6, he says that he's the bread of life. In John 8, he says he's the light of the world. Here in John 10, he says that he's the gate. Later on, he's going to say that he's the good shepherd. And as you read kind of the parable and then you begin to listen to his explanation, as you read the story, you think, well, surely Jesus is going to compare himself to the good shepherd. But why is he comparing himself to the gate, like of all things, right? And Eastern thought is very different from Western thought. We in the United States and the way we think, we're more rational, we're more logical. And all the pieces of the story need to have their physical counterparts. Everything kind of has to make sense for us. For the guys who lived back then, it didn't necessarily have to make a whole lot of sense. The dots didn't necessarily need to connect. And so as Jesus thinks, he's saying, he gives the whole story, and he's like, look, I'm the gate. Surprise, surprise. In John chapter 6, Jesus says he's the bread, but he also says he's the giver of the bread. So he's mixing metaphors again. In John chapter 14, he says he's the way, but he's also the one who shows the way. So he's mixing metaphors again. His point is that all the false prophets and all the false religious leaders that came before him were thieves and robbers, and that they were not the way to the Father. But he is. He's the gate. He's the way to enter the pen, and whoever enters through him will be saved or kept safe, and that person will have the security to come in and go out and find pasture. And so Jesus, if you notice, he's offering this offer of salvation for whoever wants to be saved. Again, very truly I tell you, I am the gate for the sheep. All who have come before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. That seems like a pretty good deal. Enter through Jesus and be saved. Why do so many reject this incredibly simple offer? I mean, he paints the picture over and over in lots of different ways to make it incredibly easy for mankind to understand. And here he breaks it down just, there's some sheep. There's a shepherd. There's a pen. If you go in through this gate, you're going to be safe within the sheep pen. Right? And he's saying that if you want to be saved, enter through the gate and you'll be safe too. But many times us, men, women, human beings, we don't see and accept the very simple offer of Jesus Christ. Why don't we? Who knows? It's a mystery. Maybe because people think there are other ways, right? I don't have to go through the gate like the thieves and the robbers. I can just jump over the fence if I want to, right? Maybe some of us think all roads lead to God. Maybe, we all worship the same God just by other names. Or maybe it's just good enough to be a good person. I can get there according to my human works, my human efforts. Again, Jesus is the only way. He's the gate. Maybe we reject this simple offer because we want to do what we want to do. We just want to freely roam. I don't want to go into a sheep pen and be corralled in here and have to go through one gate, one way when you tell me to go. I just want to go out onto the countryside and I just want to eat grass and whatever I feel like doing. And so because we have this independent, autonomous desire within us, we reject Jesus' very simple offer. But in doing that, we miss the gate. Some of us are upset because Jesus' offer is so narrow. Jesus, why you got to be so narrow? Well, I mean, if you look at his invitation, it's pretty broad. He does say whoever, right? Like whoever. It doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter how old you are, what color your skin tone is, or how much money you got in your bank account. Whoever you are, you can enter through this gate. That seems to me like it's pretty broad. But you do have to go through his gate. You do have to go in his way. Why is that? It's because that's how God has designed life. That's God's plan. He sets up the boundaries and the limits. Shepherds know how sheep behave. They know what's best for them. They know that if sheep are in a pen, in a corral, with a single gate, with the shepherd, this is how sheep function and do well. Right? God knows the same thing about us. And he knows this is how human beings do well. They need one way, one thing to focus on because we can tend to be pretty scatterbrained. He wants things to be simple, no confusion. And his goal for all of this is for us to have life and to have it to the full. Jesus' purposes for coming to the sheep are different from the Pharisees' purposes for coming to the sheep. They come only to steal and to kill and destroy. Jesus comes that we can have life, have it abundantly. So 2 different motives and agendas. What does it mean to have this abundant life or life to the full, which is our theme, by the way, for this year? He's not referring to the health and wealth and prosperity gospels that you may hear out there or on television or on the internet. He didn't come to give everybody a Tesla and an iPhone and a new home, like you get a house and you get a house and you get a house. That's not Jesus. That's not why he came. He came to give spiritual life, and he came to give it in abundance. We were once dead, but we've been made alive in Christ. And this spiritual life grows, and it bears fruit until we become the likeness of Jesus Christ. This abundant life is more than you would expect. This physical life that we live is corrupted, and it's lacking. And I know that we can go out into nature, and there are some incredibly beautiful things that we can see in nature, but as beautiful as this life can be, a sunset, a sunrise, right? A child being born. This world is corrupted. And this world is nothing in comparison to heaven and being with the Father for the rest of eternity. If your mind is blown by the simple nature of a flower in bloom, imagine what it's going to be like when you get to sit at the feet of the Father for the rest of eternity. Your mind will completely just, melt, fall apart. Your eyes are going to fall out because it's going to be so awesome once we get to be with the Father. Amen? We get to live a life that is truly life. And what we're living right now is just the beginning. It's just the preview. It's just the appetizer. It's just the foretaste of what we will truly be able to have in the end. Do you want to live this life? Yeah, I think that we all do. It comes by entering through the gate. You got to go through the gate. It does not come from independently free roaming and doing whatever we want. Free roaming leads to us falling off of cliffs. It leads to getting stuck in the thickets and in the briars and in the thorns. It leads to us being attacked by wolves, right? That's what free roaming does for a sheep. Life to the full comes by counterintuitively submitting and following a path other than our own. And it's amazing how God has set this up. We think that life to the full is, I just kick back, I relax, and it's all about me. Jesus says that is not the best way that you function. That is not the best way that you live. The best way that you live is within boundaries for your life. That is what makes you stronger. That is what makes you better. And when you choose to live within my boundaries, guess what? That's when you begin to blossom. When you live the way that you want to live or the way that you think you want to live, that's when you decline. And for those of us, if we remember how it was before we were Christians, we all lived our own lives, didn't we? And how did that work? It didn't work very well, which is the whole reason why we're here. Right? Because it didn't work. And so Jesus is the gate. Place yourself under his care. Let him give you life to the full. Second point. Jesus is our good shepherd. Verse 11, he says, I'm the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Jesus cares for his sheep, and he lays down his life for them. That's how much he cares. And he's contrasted by this hired hand who doesn't care. And instead of laying down his life to protect the sheep, this hired hand preserves his own life. He guards his own life. He protects his own life to the detriment of the sheep. Jesus says he's not the hired hand. Jesus is not the manager of the McDonald's. Jesus is the owner of the McDonald's. Because you get different treatment, right? From the owner and the manager. right? The manager, you got your order wrong. The manager's like, well, I'll try to make it better, but if I can't, oh well. The owner's like, oh, sir, let me make that right for you, and here's a couple gift certificates. Please come back, right? Because they want your business. This is how Jesus is for us. This is how much Jesus cares for us. I'm reminded of the example with David. David, when he was going to go fight Goliath, he's before Saul, and he tells Saul, you know what? I can fight Goliath because there was a time when I've killed the lion and I've killed the bear as I was a shepherd boy. And that's what it means to lay down your life. The wolf, the lion, the bear is coming for the sheep. And instead of preserving your life and saying, hey, I'm out of here because I don't want to get eaten by the lion, the bear, or the wolf, I'm going to go and I'm going to fight the lion, the bear, the wolf. I will lay down my life and sacrifice myself so that the sheep can be protected. This is the shepherd that we have in Jesus Christ. He risked and he laid down his life, we all know, on the cross in order to save us. And this good shepherd has a relationship with his sheep. He knows them and they know him. Verse 14, I am the good shepherd, I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And so he's saying that that's the relationship that he wants with us, the same relationship that Christ has with the Father, that closeness, that intimacy, that connection. That's the same relationship that he wants with us. Closeness, intimacy, connection. I've got a video that I want to show here. It's a short video. It's just 2 minutes. But this video illustrates how the closeness that we should have with God and how we should hear his voice. And it's coming.
One more time.
Oh, one is.
Louder!
Tika, 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 tika. Tika, 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 tika. Tika, tika, tika.
Look at them, look at them.
That's amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
They are coming. Oh my God. Woo! Oh my God. I can't believe this. Oh my God. This is right voice. Oh my God. This is amazing. One more.
Yeah, Eunice made him go away.
Oh my God.
Was that cool or what?
Oh my God.
You will never have the same again.
Oh my God. I can't believe the way they were coming.
That's great, huh? The sheep hear his voice. You know, this shepherd that we just saw here, he's probably raised many of these sheep since they were small lambs. So a relationship has been built. He's fed for them. He's cared for them. He's bathed them. He's protected them. He's sacrificed for them. He's loved them. And so these sheep know their shepherd. And as a result, they know his voice. And they come running when he calls. And you saw the difference between the three before. They were like, sucky, 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 whatever they were saying, right? And the sheep were like, who are you? Paid zero attention to them. But when the shepherd came and he gave his call, they immediately looked up, perked up. They said, there he is. And they came running. because they know who it is that cares for them, and they know their shepherd's voice. The sheep will not listen to strangers. I want us to ask ourselves a question this morning. What about us? Who are we listening to? Do we listen to the stranger, or do we listen to the good shepherd? Because I think some of us have it backwards. We come running when the world calls, with its music, with its fashion, with its desires, with its cares, with its concerns, with its lies. When the world starts talking to us, sucky, 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 here we come. Here I come, world. Here I come. I'm all in. Show me what I need. Show me what I want. And we get caught up. But when Jesus calls, we stay still. Jesus says, sucky, 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 sucky. Here I am. I'm talking to you. I'm encouraging you to, whatever, live right, tell the truth, be pure, love me. And many of us, unfortunately, we just keep right on grazing. And we don't hear his voice. This is big. This is really big. You can tell whose voice you're listening to by when you come running, who's at the end of that path. What is it that excites you? What is it that makes you smile? What is it that gets you all fired up and all charged up? Ready to cheer? Go! Whatever it is, whatever that thing is in the end, that's what you're following. I know that we might be here this morning, this afternoon. I know that we're filling couch cushions, chair cushions, whatever. I don't even know what they are. Seats. But who are you really listening to? If you still can't figure it out, give me your calendar and your bank statement. And I will show you who is most important in your life. Because it comes down to where you spend your time and how you spend your money. We've got to come running when the good shepherd calls. When Jesus says, sucky, 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 we've got to be like, here I am, I'm coming. Because I know where I'm going to get my feeding from. I know where I'm going to be led out into green pastures and quiet waters. I know who's going to protect me in the valley. It's you, Jesus. And I'm going to come running to you. This comes through a relationship with the Good Shepherd. It's the only way that our ears and our trust and our faith will be tuned and trained to recognize the desire of his voice over other voices. Because we have competing voices for our attention. There's YouTube, there's Instagram, there's our friends, there's our coworkers, right? All these things are competing for our attention. How will you know which one to listen to? How will you know which sucky to chase after? Your ear must be tuned. And the only way to do that is by building a relationship with the shepherd. That is the only way. We've got to know him and he must know us. And it's not by doing a checklist. It's not by meeting minimum daily requirements. It's not by following religious rules. It's by walking with him. It's by trusting him. It's by bearing our souls to him. It's by exposing ourselves in the most vulnerable of ways. It's by casting our anxieties on him. It's expressing our gratitude for him. It's sharing our joys. It's praising. It's worshiping him. This is how we build this intimate fellowship and connection with God. It's not just doing things so that we can feel better about ourselves and can pat ourselves on the back. Well, I went to church. I gave my money. I sang my song. It's giving our hearts to the Good Shepherd because he's given his heart to us. This is how we build a relationship, and this is how we learn to hear his voice. And this is all a part of God's loving plan. Jesus says here in the end that the Father loves the fact that he sacrifices and lays down his life. Verse 17, the reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life only to take it up again. Jesus wasn't forced to lay down his life for us. Jesus chose to lay down his life for us. He didn't do it because, oh, well, this is the way it's supposed to go. Let me fill in my checkbox. Well, if I don't give up my life, then my discipleship partner is going to call me on Tuesday and ask me why I didn't do it, so let me go ahead and do it. That's not why he did it. It was from the inside. It's because he loves us. It's because he's a good shepherd. Psalm 100 says, know that the Lord is God. It is he who made us, and we are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Anyone who has ever heard about Jesus has had a response. These Jews who listened had a response. Verse 19, the Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he's demon-possessed and raving mad while I listen to him. But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? As you hear the message of Jesus, we either love him or we hate him. And these Jews had their own mixed response. Some thought he was crazy and demon-possessed. Others rejected that thought and believed that he was more than that because he had done a miracle. But what about you? What is your response? What is our response to Jesus this afternoon? Who do you say he is? Is he a thief? Is he a robber? Is he a stranger? Is he the one that has come to steal and kill and destroy your life? Is he the jail keeper? Is he the warden? Oh man, I wish that I didn't have Jesus, but I kind of got to have Jesus. I'm here to tell you that Jesus is the gate. I'm here to tell you that he's the good shepherd. And he's come to give you life. He's come to give it to you to the full. Believe in Jesus. Trust in Jesus. Sit down, open the Bible, and learn about Jesus with whomever brought you this morning. Let him be your gate. Let him be your good shepherd. Jesus is our gate. He's the only way to the Father, and he gives us abundant life. Jesus is our good shepherd. He cares for us. He leads us to green pastures and quiet waters. He refreshes our souls, and he lays down his life to protect us, the sheep of his pasture. We have a very, very good shepherd. Let's hear and let's follow his voice. Amen? Amen. At this time, I want to invite up Chance and John Lucy. John's going to be getting baptized this morning. And those that are with him as well.